There we
can't
go.
sign in.
I think you're already in. If we could call a roll real quick.
If you want to do the date.
Oh, today is June 25th, Tuesday, 7:13 p.m. HRB meeting. If we could call the roll.
You told? Here. Derek Metzen,
Here?
John McLaughlin,
Here.
and Christina Robertson Gardner, staff.
Is there any items not listed on the agenda tonight that someone would like to discuss? No. Okay.
If possible, can we move
And
the
if we
work
could-
session items to after?
Yeah, the 2013-14 goals and work plan will be moved to after the public hearing. And right? Okay, so we're going to commence with the public hearing. We'll now commence with the public hearing on agenda item 13-059, a request for approval of 3 homes as new construction. The criteria for approval of a land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the Municipal Code, it is considered consistent with the Comprehensive Plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted complete forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant, testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statements. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing, either orally or in writing, precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in the circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standards contained in ORS 197.763. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest or ex-party contact regarding this application?
No.
Who has visited the site? Okay. So, I think we have 15 minutes for the applicant?
And then
Yeah.
15 minutes for neighborhood association.
Really?
Up to. Correct.
Up to, but not necessarily having to take it. Okay, that's fair. Then anybody else would be 3 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll turn it over to staff.
All right. Thank you, Board and Chair McLaughlin. This is a bit of a unique application since that you'll be reviewing the proposal for 3 new homes on one block in the McLaughlin Conservation District, which in my time here has never happened. So it's kind of a unique situation. And because of that, I thought it was very important that they all be reviewed together as one application and to look at it all together en masse, how it affected the block rather than each individual application, because it's harder to do that compare and contrast. So we are looking at the application as one proposal this evening. As you see, there are 3 homes, and we're calling vernacular, which you see a V here, bungalow A and bungalow B. And bungalow A and B face the Van Buren and Jackson here. So here are some surrounding homes in the neighborhood, and we looked at both homes within the block and then homes that were across the street and adjacent to the project. And these are the homes that I highlighted in the staff report. And the ones that have a larger frame around them are the individually designated structures in McLaughlin. And then the houses to below are on the block are significant, but they're not individually designated. The house I want to kind of spell out the most, I think, is the Howell House, and that is the one that is located in between the vernacular, and so the vernacular would be on this side, and Bungalow A would be on this side. Another one I think was quite interesting if you're looking at massing, and this is the house across the street from Bungalow B, is on the opposite block, and this is the house that is adjacent to Bungalow B. Just for refresher, this is the elevations of Bungalow A. It's utilizing a kind of what we call a 2/3 porch with a kind of a front office being pushed out. Here's the layout. You'll see an existing line of trees along 9th Street that are still proposed to remain. I think there's one existing tree in the middle of the block that's proposed to be removed. But these kind of larger existing 4 trees are proposed to be remained. The applicant has, on all 3 applications, proposed to attach the garage and the back porch with a breezeway. So it's one thing that you'll be looking at. And are all of these 3, is this attachment acceptable? In previous applications, the board has looked at the acceptability, appropriateness of attached breezeways, how that reflects the 3-foot side setback. As you recall, because you are going through a type 3 process, you have a little more flexibility to make a determination of what you see as attached and detached. The applicant asked for a preservation incentive for a setback, but the way the board had been approving breezeways and seeing breezeways as not attaching and allowing it to continue to use the side yard setback, we didn't notice as a preservation incentive because the board had previously seen these as detached structures. So that's why a preservation incentive is not in the staff report, because based on previous policy of how the board viewed breezeways as not constitute an attached structure, the board can continue that without requesting preservation incentive. However, if the board feels that in this situation, having 3 homes with attached garages may in fact make a massing issue or other aesthetic issues, you can choose not to allow it at that point. But that is why the preservation incentive was not proposed, because based on your previous findings, you see this is still a detached structure, which allows the 3-foot side yard setback. Let's see. Continue. This is Bungalow B. Slightly different. That, as you can see, also has an attached breezeway from the porch to the garage.
Can you go back to that last one real quick?
And I can bring up the larger versions if we want to move to see a more
that's it.
zoomed
Thanks.
in version.
I just wanted to see a side.
So if this is directly behind, so this would be Bungalow A, this is Bungalow B. So you run the block, and kind of that larger 1.5-story bungalow that I talked about is directly across the street, and then kind of the blue 1.5-story non-designated is right here. Same choice, the applicants chose to attach through the breezeway. I'll continue. This is Vernacular A. Very similar to the proposal in Kenema, though obviously on flat land, and so there is no daylight basement in this model. You'll see it's flipped on this side. So once again, garage, rear porch, breezeway, and then this is the side addition in the main volume with the garage. And this is that Queen Anne vernacular house that was discussed. So kind of the goal, I think, tonight, there were a fair amount of comments by the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association about particular issues relating to massing and some architectural detail in windows, and where I've agreed on staff, as staff, I've propose what I think are to be conditions of approval that address those concerns. And then there are other areas where I'm looking for the board for more direction. So I'd like to go down through these items to review for you to think about as we move forward. And based on kind of, I see these main 6 issues, and we get back to the deliberations, I can keep this back on the screen. It'll inform how you move forward on, I think, some of the conditions of approval. And real briefly, and I'll even, this paragraph that I wrote in the staff report, I'll just read aloud. On their own, each house staff believes can be conditioned to meet the adopted guidelines for new construction. However, one also needs to look at how the combined massing will affect the block and the immediate area. Do the existing homes provide sufficient massing to absorb the size and footprint of the proposed development? Or does the applicant need to mitigate that massing? This can be accomplished through various ways, such as the removal of the breezeway, introduction of additional landscaping, and inclusion of additional windows on side elevations. And secondly, the goal of the design guidelines is not to limit new construction to the shortest adjacent building, nor does it allow you to build up to the tallest adjacent building as a default. Rather, one needs to determine if the chosen design creates such an overpowering mass that it will draw away from the significance of the historic homes and therefore the district as a whole. So at this time, I don't have any particular direction beyond the suggested conditions of approval that I think will address kind of this question of the immediate introduction of 3 new homes on a block. So I am looking for additional direction from you if you feel that the enclosed staff conditions do not address kind of this general concern of, when we're done, will these 3 new homes have a larger effect than they would individually. One thing that was recommended that the applicant could do if the board wants to continue is the applicant could come in with a street elevation, especially along the Howell, look at the Howell House and the Vernacular and Bungalow A. It is top of peak of each of the new homes is 24 feet, and the Howell House is 20 feet, so it's about 4 feet taller top of peak on both new homes. And so it's that balance of, yes, the new construction is taller than the Howell House. However, there are other larger homes in the immediate vicinity, and on balance, do they kind of absorb the new house, or really does it need to be continued to be mitigated because of just having 3 new homes on a block, and the Howell House kind of feeling kind of bookended by these 2 larger homes. So I'd like to go through all the conditions of approval, but that's really the big question, I think, for the board to look at tonight is, have we sufficiently conditioned that you feel that have mitigated those concerns, or does something additional need to be done? So some of the conditions of approval that we will look at our window dimensions and configuration, especially that 2-to-1 dimension on the ground floor elevation of the vernacular, and some of the dimensions on the bungalows, as well as looking at some of the side elevations of the bungalows if there needs to be an additional side elevation window. So that recommendation of 1 additional side elevation window is on the staff recommendation. The McLaughlin Neighbor Association questioned the proportionality of the gable dormer on Bungalow B, and we can go back and look at that. And Denise McGriff felt that it started too low on the roof pitch, and actually should have been the top of the dormer should brought higher up to the top of peak. And so that's a question the board can look at, and if that needs to be conditioned, I have a draft condition for that. The effect of the overall height and massing of the new construction to the abutting and adjacent historic homes, talked a little bit about that, and the overarching. The height and massing of the vernacular, which is a McLaughlin Neighborhood Association concern. And one of their concerns is to ensure that the paint scheme is associated with the architectural style of the house. So there is some conditions on that. The board generally doesn't get to any particular color choice, but if you feel that the architectural style, I recommend generally a 3-colored approach, and that the window sashes are the darkest of the 3 colors is generally a good way to ensure that you have an appropriate style for the architectural style represented, so bungalow and vernacular, and that's what we conditioned on the last application, so I generally continue that, but I look for direction from the board from that. So real quickly, these are the the conditions for bungalow A, and real quickly what I'm going to do, I'm going to escape for a second, and I'm going to bring bungalow A up. I'm going to tab between the screens. Oops, that is not what I want. Sorry about that. So we're looking at bungalow A. A smooth 4 or 4.5 inch composite or wood lap siding. A recommendation of the window trim to be redesigned to be equal sides on the top and side and narrow on the bottom. The applicant had kind of proposed the top molding of the windows in the bottom to be longer, and then the two to be shorter, which is a bungalow detailing, but I think the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association did not feel it was a bungalow detailing that was necessarily represented in the district. It was generally our bungalow detailing is a little more proportional. We don't do much, and that's tends to be more of what we see in new construction, that exaggerated upper lower. I'll show you the upper lower. There we go. So we have the upper molding and the lower molding being wider than the side. So our recommendation was to kind of simplify that and not have the extended horizontal elevation. Preferred larger 3060 2:1 ratio for all 1/1 sash windows on all ground floor elevations. Inclusion of a 1/1 window on the side garage elevation, which was a McLaughlin Neighborhood Association suggestion. Introduce an additional 1/1 window on each side elevation. Provide the minimum 3-color paint scheme, and of course make sure that the lighting is appropriate to the bungalow style. And I think it's not as much an issue as bungalow, whereas vernacular, a lot of people try to put a bungalow front porch light in. So just, I think it's more important when we get to the bungalow or the vernacular design. So I'll show you a little bit. If you're looking at the side elevations of bungalow A, this question is: is the applicant provided a proportional side elevation? So here's one. On this end, are they? The recommendation was to be slightly bigger and slightly longer, where there was a question of if these windows were too short and small for the elevation. So I'm going to go back. Bungalow B, almost all the same as bungalow A, except the request to redesign the front dormer to be brought closer to the ridgeline, so brought up, and introduce slightly smaller windows on the ground floor front elevation. So I'm going to bring up bungalow B. So a request to make these smaller.
Well, can I see, that must be a bedroom.
Yeah.
And so those are probably 3050s for egress.
And then the question, if you look on here we go. Question, is it too low? So that's one thing the board needs to look at. And I could bring up in a staff report, what I thought was as close to the an example of a gabled dormer in the district.
It was the one across on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
or on 7th.
Yeah. So this is an example of a gabled dormer. You say it's slightly bigger, and granted, it doesn't have the break and hip, but I think this is, at least it's what I'm assuming that what Ms. Denise McGriff's comments was this was a little bit higher, and that's what was my interpretation of her comments. Or if you believe that is it more of just a building plan kind of sleight of perception? Sometimes when you look at building plans, it doesn't quite, you don't get that 3D version. So let's see. We'll go back to bungalow B, sorry. So that's really the only additional difference from bungalow A. So vernacular A, and we'll take a look at it. Take a look at it. So this is an example of a gabled dormer in the district. It was the one across on the corner, or on 7th. Yeah. So this is an example of a gabled dormer in the district. And we'll take a look at it. making sure that smooth 8-inch composite wood lap siding, composite, which was last month's recommendation. Now, last month had the daylight basement, so it was switched to a smaller reveal to differentiate the floors. I don't think that's needed here because it's a at-grade house. Request to provide those larger ratio on the ground floor elevation, which was discussed on just the front elevation in the Kenema home. So take a look at the side elevation, and one of them is a kitchen window, so that is going to be higher. So I said I made sure to not require that for the kitchen window because that just usually doesn't work. So you'll see on the side elevation, we see where that kitchen window is. The garage door on the proposal looked like it was off-center, so I wanted to get a verification from the designer if that was on purpose to get access or if it was just the way the elevation was shown. So the question is, if it is to get access, is it okay that it's off-center? And then, of course, make sure the front porch and garage lighting is compatible with vernacular architecture, which generally means much simpler and not bungalow architecture. So quickly, I want to show here that question of the offset, and if that truly is the case, it needs the offset for car access. Is that okay to have offset? We have allowed not necessarily an offset in the past, but if you remember Mr. Edgar's house on 8th Street 2 summers ago, he did have kind of an extra side area, and it was offset a little bit. So we have allowed a little bit of an offset before. And this is the elevation. I want to make sure this is that kitchen window. And of course, these are the stairs to go up. So I wanted to make sure that this was not part of the discussion of the 30601/1 windows. It's more related to these elevations, but more importantly, this is what the board can give direction on, the front elevations. These ground floor front elevations. That's what I have right now, and I'm open to any questions the board may have, and we know that the applicant is ready to speak as well as the neighborhood association. And when we get to the deliberation, I'd be happy.
Would you stop there for a second? Go back to
Sure.
the precedent images while you talk.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, thanks.
I didn't see any paint schemes.
There was a picture of,
There was?
yeah,
Do you have it in your
When the applicant's submittal.
it's in the applicant's submittal.
So we get to, for example,
I'm saying for the new construction, there was.
so
Right there.
this is a
Oh.
recommendation. It's a 2-color paint scheme
Okay.
for bungalow B.
And the other one was
And-
pretty close.
Vernacular A was the same as before, with the kind of sea green, but requiring a 3rd color as part of the condition as what happened last month. There we go. Looking for the 3rd color in the window sash. And then the bungalow A. It's kind of the same version of brown and gray. The question is, did they put in an additional color in that mix to be a 3-colored scheme? Let's see. And when we get to deliberation, I'll keep that the kind of further direction items. I think that kind of, at least I think, summarize the concerns I see. So at this point, I'd be happy to hand it over to the applicant unless the board has specific questions to staff.
No? Okay. If the applicant wants to come forward, state their name and address, please. You fellas have 15 minutes or less.
It's gonna be tough.
Starting now.
Good evening. I'm Bill Heinz, Mountain Ridge Homes, P.O. Box 102, Boring, Oregon. Good to see you all again. And
Bill Robinson, Design Providence, Portland, Oregon.
So again, as we have 3 houses in front of you and working together as a team is the way I look at it, for your input on to build the best houses that we can. We have the 2 bungalows, different as they are, and a vernacular, which I think it'd probably be easiest to start with the vernacular since we've all kind of seen that one before. Paint colors, of course, we've trying to hit some of the easy things. So let me get the vernacular here in front of me.
I want to tell you, we really don't get into paint, and I'm going to suggest that it be taken off anyway, because as much as we'd like to be involved in paint, it's not part of our guidelines. Am I correct?
They do talk a little bit about guidelines about just appropriate paint colors for the architecture. It's a little piece in there, and it was always assumed that it would be looked at in a generality to make sure that the paint scheme wasn't absolutely not fitting the architectural style, but it was never intended to choose the paint color or...
I guess that's what we've always had to stay away from, is choosing colors.
Yeah,
Maybe you say it's a 3-color scheme,
Right.
but that's as far as we can go, right?
Well, I think what we have before is
We can
I'm
go
sorry,
farther.
we've said generally appropriate for the architecture. It's then you can't do it 3 colors of pink. I think the idea is
But everybody else does. But yeah, okay.
There's precedence of pink and white, 2 color schemes.
I
so
say
you're
that,
welcome
though,
to.
I think the idea is
Lime.
it
Okay.
aligns people and here's
just
your
wanna be clear.
here's your big area, but you're not saying that
Okay.
Heather Gray number 32 bare
All right.
paint is what we want.
Sorry. We've been...
Sounds like I'm happy with that. If I need to bring paint colors in front of Christina or whoever it might be down the road to have somebody give me a thumbs up or tell me to try again, I'm happy to do that. So, let's see. Well, we have a bungalow B up here. Well, then
You
the
want to stay on the
vernacular.
vernacular?
Yeah, we
Okay.
should stay on the vernacular. So
You
there's
you can move the
okay.
slide.
Last time I tried to touch that thing, it went haywire.
Do we just try to pull? Give it a shot, Bo.
Which way are we going here? Just swipe the screen.
So Windows, Christina talked about that a little bit. Along the right-hand side of the house, we've got the kitchen sink and the stairs. So of course those have their restrictions over countertops and with stairwells coming up. The one in the front den on the main floor has the ability, if that's the proper size, to change that to a dimension. It's not a problem there. The master bedroom, and I realize we're a headboard wall from a master bedroom standpoint. You don't get into that from an exterior point of view, but to have the tall windows on both the back of the house and on the side of the house would take away a headboard wall.
Right.
So
that really, from the interior, it would be inappropriate.
Where's the master? Is that the...
So you're
Okay.
the
Side.
one. If you're looking at the second elevation down, it would be the 2 transom style windows inside that middle gable.
Yep. Okay.
So right now, that would be considered, the headboard would sit underneath those windows.
Yeah.
So whether it's proportionally correct might be another question, but from a layout standpoint, it would be better for us not to have windows there than to have larger windows.
I think maybe a good solution would be to just flank. We could move 2 single hungs out to the sides, make them narrower. Maybe they're 18 inches, or find the appropriate 2-to-1 scale, and still get the window massing on the side, but just minimize the furnishability issue a little bit.
Would we put one of those then in the utility room then, Bo? Or
Well, we'll get to that 'cause
Okay.
we may have to redesign the utility room for that window that we'd be doing on the front as well.
so yes, we could hit some of those kind of things. In the back, from the back, so we're looking at the back of the garage. There's a bathtub. So again, a height issue. I think it would
Where
be
that little shed on the bottom elevation, where the little shed dormer is there. Not dormer, shed. So if it's a 2-to-1 ratio that we're after, we could make the windows narrower.
But that's at the rear. Is that, Christina, is that what is being asked, that all the ground
Said
level
all
windows
ground.
are?
Well, that's kind of the first question. So the board can decide if they want to move backwards from that. If they think, what are the 2-to-1 ratios that are really needed on all of the vernacular A, bungalow A, and bungalow B? And so that's some of the question. Is it really just the front elevation? Is it the front? And knowing that these, is with these side, is there any opportunity, or are you fine with the rear? I mean, at the Kenema review, you were fine with this proportionality in the rear, so that you could continue with that.
How much time?
You'll
are
want to
we
do
in?
that same analysis on the bungalow A and bungalow B.
You're almost done.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, well, the thing is, you've got 3 houses, so you've got to kind of rock and roll through them.
Right.
So we get what you're talking about.
Exactly. In the breezeway, of course, from a modern living standpoint, it's a very nice feature to have from a marketing standpoint to sell the house. But understanding that there's historical impact. So
I think there was a question brought up about, is the garage door
right.
off center, and yes, it is, and it was just for a functional standpoint. So I guess it could be moved back to the center, but from a functional standpoint, that's the best spot for us.
right, yeah, it would be
Very-
overlapping the house if it were moved to the center without revising the width of the building or something to that effect. So
And then I think the big one is the massing. And again, really when it comes down to massing, we've tried to do the best that we can to develop a good quality house plan that fits with the neighborhood and the type of houses that are in the neighborhood. So hopefully you agree with us when it comes to that, and that's our thought.
if I remember right, the house that's adjacent to the northeast is got quite a bit more massing than the one in the middle. Yeah, here. This is your okay.
You can use the mouse if you want to create an arrow.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the house to the right of this, you can see the footprint a little bit, but then it stretches out to the back too. So there's a little bit more massing there as compared to the Queen Anne vernacular in the middle there.
Should I ask if there's anything that you guys want to ask me on the vernacular, or should we just keep moving along?
Do we want to ask to let them make their presentation?
Probably just keep rocking.
Fair enough.
How much?
Then we'll ask after.
What time do we?
Almost 9 minutes.
Left.
So, no,
Oh, we've already used 9.
we got about 6. Yeah,
Okay.
I
So-
can squeeze it a little bit, but
Yeah.
We'll get rid of that. So
We run into the same issue a little bit with the windows on the main level, in regards to the interior space and what we're trying to do with it. Again, if it's a matter of proportions, if we can split windows into double, single hungs, or whatever we need to do to get proportions, but keep the overall height a little bit from getting so close to the floor in a couple of places. We're talking about bungalow A. It doesn't really matter which one.
that'd
It's
be
the
both
same.
bungalow A
Right.
and B.
Why
Right.
don't you can move the.
what's the ceiling height on the first level of all these homes?
9. Let's go to A here. Oops.
6 foot 6 is 2 foot 6 is 30.
We run into some of the same issues as the vernacular with what's on the inside. I think in the front room and in the den, no problem. We've got a kitchen window on the back. On the sides, I think adding the ones flanking the fireplace. I don't know. What's your thought on that? I didn't know that 2x2 transoms were not inside the bungalow style. Kind of thought that was an appropriate look, but so there's we can stretch those down, or because we wouldn't want to be deleting that amount of window. In the garages, doing a 3x6 on the side of the garage seems a little odd to me. If that's what would, it seems, if I were to drive by that, it seems like it would look out of place to me.
Well, I think what was suggested was a window opening, but not necessarily
I thought it
that
said,
size.
Okay.
Just asking for a window.
Oh, sure, window would be nice. And then I'm gonna just get to my thing, and then whatever.
Yeah, keep going.
On the bungalow B,
Dormer?
yeah, I just, to me, raising that dormer up. I'm sorry, let me get to the picture here.
Yep.
Okay. Personally, I just don't see that as a benefit to raise that dormer up. I see it as being the proper scale in regards to the main roof. The idea of raising that up to me is just going to pronounce that more, and that doesn't seem to me to be the right thing to do proportionally. I just don't see that.
Did you ever think that maybe raising up and just making a shed that might bring down the scale of it, not make it look like such a because it's a bonus, right? So you don't
Right.
need.
Yeah, we don't need the egress window.
No.
A shed could be done there. The only problem is we're starting off with that. I believe that's I'm trying to read that. Remember if it's a 7 or 8/12 pitch. And my experience has been with when you're trying to get a shed in with a composition roof, getting that 412, out far enough to.
Well, you just don't want to
work.
put ice and storm on a 2 or 3, is what you're saying.
Well, I
And-
think a 2 or 3 might look a little odd from the side. So
No, not with a shed. But are you stick framing this, or is it trussed?
both.
What's that? Is that stick and
I'm
truss?
trying to remember. It looks like it's stick. If I remember right, bungalow B is going to be, the upper portion of bungalow B is mainly going to be stick framed.
Yeah.
And then bungalow A is going to be attic trusses, if I remember right.
Okay.
So it's just, I guess it's a preference thing. I like the gable and I like the proportions of it. It's, if somebody else doesn't,
You guys got any questions? You got any?
No, I don't.
If they made the cable pitched, wouldn't it make it come above there? You don't want it to come right to the top.
No. There's on gabled ends, and you guys can chime in. Gables like this have historically at the ridge, they've also been a little lower. There's no formula. It doesn't really fit too well because it's kind of narrow. I think if you had, there's both sides to this argument. If you had a shed there with a bank of like 3 or 4 smaller windows, maybe the outside ones are smaller casements, like a 2030, maybe a bank of 3 or 4, that would fit in pretty well and actually would fit with the roof. I mean, it's a thought.
I'm going to go back to A, because
Framing a shed's a lot easier than that gable.
yeah, I would have to get my head back into the structure of it to know,
If you're going to stick that, there's going to be a ridge beam. You come off the ridge, it's pretty easy. You have a couple
just
of,
comparing the two.
yeah, okay. I'm just asking.
Yeah, if it was a shed, it would seem like it would be, you'd want it to be wider and have shorter
Yeah.
windows. I think that would be a neat look.
I'm just kind of asking as far as how they're planning to build it, because truss and stick would be much different as far as
Right.
structure and how you went about this. That was my question.
Right. And I'm going, it's been a month since I really had my head into that, but if I remember right, this one was going to be stick. The upper portion of it was going to be stick framed, and then moving to trusses on the lower parts of the roof.
Sure. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Would it be possible if you could sketch to show the proportion of the 2 houses that are flanking that Howell House and present it to Christina and have her look at it, just because I want to feel comfortable with the size of them in the relation to that small house, because it's already going to stick out because it's not going to be painted the same. You know, it's all one color, and it's going to look different. And I would
That's
just
the
like,
question. If the board feels that tonight they
Yeah.
have sufficient conditions,
That we
and
may or
if
may not
not,
need
then
that.
then they need. That's something that I can. That's not something that staff can do. It's either you need it next month to make that finding, or
then
you,
I'd have to make them wait.
you know, but
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
All right.
How about some landscaping? some buffering plants or
No. I just, I want to feel comfortable that, that they're not gonna dwarf that house.
If you want a reference, it looks like the adjacent house or the house in between the bungalow and the vernacular will. I'm looking at bungalow B here.
Aren't they going to be
Be
like 4
just-
feet taller?
Yeah, these are going to be 4 feet taller. But please go back to bungalow B.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
That's A.
Bungalow B, please.
Oh, B. Sorry.
Well, I guess you can do it from A. A is
Is the one it's going to be next to.
Yeah. So essentially, the adjacent house, the roof will go to the top of the windows that you see on the
The
front
roof
side.
of the Howell house will go to the top of the windows?
Yeah.
But it's
the
such a
top.
narrow house. Just-
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm concerned about.
Keep in mind that garage is way back behind the side of that
Yes,
house. So if
yes.
you put your finger and cover that up, it gives you a better idea of
Oh,
what's sitting
yes,
proud
yes.
towards the street. It doesn't look nearly as wide.
Okay, fellas. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so next would be neighborhood association. So you can come up, state your name and your address.
Damon Mabey, Oregon City, McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. And since these are 3 separate plans, we're going to take 15 minutes for each one. No. As somebody who sat there last night on your side, I know what long meetings are like. First, real quick, in relation to paint. I understand you don't get into the particulars of it. Our concern, besides being 3 color, is that the examples we were given showed essentially the same paint on all 3 houses. We're in the same area, right next to the Howell house, which is a pale blue, right next to the house that's behind the Howell house, which is also a pale blue. They were all going to be the same color. I mean, to a large extent. So what we were asking for is not only 3 scale, but
3
differentiation.
different so they delineate. Yeah, differentiate.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's a wide range in the color palette. So, from vellum to red and all those other
Sure,
colors.
sure.
So that would be our main concern about the color scheme. And then I'm just going to. Denise gave me the report. She had to go on a personal matter, so you'll have to miss out on all of her comments and just get my comments of her comments. One of the questions that Christine asked when she read that brief paragraph was, do the existing homes provide sufficient massing to absorb the size and footprint of the proposed development? And our answer is no, they don't, particularly with attached garages. I think the guidelines are very clear. It says garages detached, not detached asterisk, except by breezeways. And how big, how much can a breezeway be? Can it have one whole wall? Can it have railings? Can the railings be, enclosed? At a certain point in time, you got to go back to the rule, which is garages are detached. And that whole neighborhood, you drive around the 2 blocks, 3 blocks surrounding there, garages are detached. You might find an occasional one that slipped through or the person built an unpermitted breezeway, but they're detached, and we believe that all these should be detached, particularly if you're going to talk about massing. If it's attached from one structure to another, it's part of the mass of the structure. So we also had a little concern about the 3-foot setback adjacent properties, but that appears to be part of the attached detached concern. Let's see. In one of Christine's findings, page 14, Historic Review Board, through the Type 3 process, can choose to interpret the definition of attached in a different manner than the Community Development Division. We don't think you should. You know, detached is detached. It's real clear. And again, it's either part of the mass, and these buildings are too massive, especially considering the tall, narrow Howell House, or they should be detached. In relation to the vernacular, it's a T shape or T style. Don't really have a problem with that, except that again, you have this tall, narrow Howell House, and then just looking at it on the drawing, you have a very square vernacular house right next to it, and it's 4 feet taller, and it's a big blocky building right next to a tall, narrow building. We don't object to the T thing. We just think maybe if it was set back further, or where its current sizing is such that it's just big. In relation to the dormer on Bungalow B, all the examples that the builder provided in his write-up all showed shed dormers. So that's point A, and point B is virtually all the examples that we've got of bungalows show very close, if not ridgeline attached gable ones, if they're not shed. Doesn't seem like that's that difficult a thing, and particularly because it'll create more headroom. And if you're in an attic-y extra space, headroom's always fun, especially I have to deal with that all the time in my house. One of the comments that we put in about the framing around the windows is not only should they be proportional, but the bottom, I'm going to say it wrong, the frame, you know what I'm talking about, casement, sill, should be narrower than the others. It shouldn't just be the same band all the way around. The standard or the style is that there's a slightly narrower, about half as thick on the bottom, which wasn't picked up in Christine's comments. Get through here as alacritus as possible. I'm going to run through this, make sure I got all the comments in place here. Generally, Christine did grab the comments that we thought were, she responded to those. So, I think to a large extent that's it. I mean, we don't have a problem with there being houses there. While the nice open corner on 9th and Jackson's great for sight distances, because that's our hazardous condition street. It's a big lot and needs to be developed. There's 3 nice lots there. We don't have a problem with there being houses there. Just kind of think they might be a little big. One suggestion we did have, which is just pure suggestion, is you have bungalow, and then vernacular, is to maybe switch the bungalow A and the vernacular so it breaks up the look. And I don't know what that does for the design of the lots. I didn't really look at that, but just an issue. Let's see. I think I caught everything. Let's see. Staff. There's a comment on page 18. Staff does not agree with Neighborhood Association perception of the horizontal massing, a non-historic proportion of height and width of vernacular design. They allow a T-plan, and that staff believes that they've mitigated the concern by attaching the addition below the ridge line and setting it 10 feet back. We just think it needs to either be further back or be a smaller T. It's just, if you look, The top picture, that's a big square thing right next to the Howell house, which, see how fast I can go backwards, is the middle one. So you see, A, it has a detached garage next to it, and B, it's a tall, narrow house, and you're going to sandwich it between one very square-shaped house with the vernacular. So, and then again, what Christy mentioned, this whole thing about the breezeways. You got 3 houses with attached breezeways. That's a significant impact to the neighborhood to go from 0 breezeways to 3. We just think should stay at 0. Okay, I think I got it. If not, I'm sure
any
Denise will tell me.
No.
No. Okay, thank you. That was the only comment I had, so you guys are welcome to come back and rebut those comments if you choose to, or if you don't.
Just trying to make sure that we hit everything. Paint color we discussed. Massing and breezeway, we kind of are leaving that, or the breezeway portion of that up to you. It's a convenience thing for the year we live in now compared to building the house proper to that. So that's to the time period. So that's up to you. Window sills, we didn't talk about. I'm acceptable to hit the time period as far as the siding, the 4 or 4.5 inch, whatever the proper thing is, or the proper way to treat our window sills. Again, that's part of this meeting, and those are things that I want to do. I think that, unless you have any questions for me, I think that just to hit those topics again real quick.
I think probably what they're asking for is a sill. You know, it's actually a sill, and it's got the drip edge on it, and that's what your 5/4 by 4 would sit on. And but that's probably what would be more historic, I guess.
Yeah.
If I get an example, because that's what I work best off of.
You can
What
find
needs
it
to
at
be
Lakeside.
seen-
It's readily available. It's a common piece of material that's used.
Yeah, what I want to do is I want to make sure my interpretation is the same as the other people's interpretation, because I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So
Sure.
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
We can condition that.
Yeah.
Give me dimensions. I can put it in there.
Do you guys have any other questions?
So, what about the moving of the windows on the vernacular bedroom windows? Is that something that you're amenable to doing? Is moving one on one side and one on the other side?
I think that's a solution that keeps glazing on that side of the house and doesn't ruin the interior.
Yeah.
And are you going to leave the? Are you going to go to the shed dormer on the other bungalow, or are you not?
Well,
Two skinny tall windows.
I would like it to stay. I was just there's lots of bungalows that have gable dormers, but maybe not within a block or two of these lots. I'm not sure, but
I was just curious.
Hey,
so it's I guess it would have to be, to me, it would have to be dictated that that's what we had to do. If that was the case, I just want to make sure, because I'd like to make it wider. If I think it,
The dormer, the
yes,
shed dormer
if
wider.
it was going to be a shed, I think it would look a little out of proportion to just
wanna
run that
go
same width. So
So there are a lot of
bungalow B?
small sheds, but those are on really old houses, and people.
yeah, it's
make
the
it
front of the
bigger.
house. I think what John has suggested with the shorter windows and the having the 3 windows there. If you're going to do the shed, it should be done right. That's so I would like the whole thing to be wider and be in the right type of proportion. So I prefer to
Yeah.
keep the gable, but
yeah, and I know where you're coming from. There's both, but predominantly what just like the neighborhood said, what you provided was sheds. All the examples, and you're probably going to find more sheds than you are gables.
sure.
But there are good examples. We have a picture of the one on 7th that's a gable, but it's up taller. It's a little wider. Um,
I just googled bungalow exteriors, and the first 3 out of the first 5 pictures were almost exactly like this. So
oh, gables.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both. I think. Yeah, I know it. You know, the big kicker here is like the breezeways. I think there's a lot of merit in the fact that the neighborhood has detached garages, and when you do this, you've almost created a theme.
right.
And I know
Because
it's
there's 3 of them.
it's a marketability thing. You said it's yeah, sure. I want to go in this little garage and walk and stay dry, but you know, it's one of those. You got to hop into the square. You better play the game, and you're not going to find any that are attached.
Yeah, that seems appropriate.
And I don't have a problem with the fact that a garage door is off center. The one next door to this,
Yeah.
the garage is off center.
Right, you see that
So
quite a bit.
it doesn't matter. You know, you can drive right in, but you know, and I totally see what you're going for on those. But when you see 3 houses that have that, it's just not going to fly. I mean, historically.
You're talking about the breezeways.
Yeah. I mean, I have a problem with them, and
That's understandable. I think for certain things, I think you understand why we would ask.
oh
It-
yeah,
it might not work.
100%
But
for
you
sure. I
understand.
get
It
it.
doesn't cost anything.
And you know what? Anywhere else it'd be fine. It's just that here, it just, you know, I'm not talking what happened prior or in a different area. I'm talking here where you've got 3 distinct homes that are going to stick out.
I would think, maybe because of how far they are back from the street and the fact that they're sort of hidden
Yeah,
from view.
I hear
but, I think that's something where we would just take everybody's guidance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm open to that at the vernacular house where it is practically hidden. But the other 2, I think it's way too obvious.
yeah, the vernacular one, I don't think it's even possible to see it.
No, it's really not.
Yeah,
But on
breezeway
but on the
type
other
of-
2,
Yeah.
the 2 bungalows,
On the-
it's exposed to the side street.
Yeah, you got 9th Street
Yeah.
that's going to see that. The other one's very well insulated, but I think that side street, it would look too much alike. And I get where the neighbors are saying,
No,
You
I
know,
don't see it at all.
flip them, you know,
Yeah.
and that might mix it up a little bit, but
I don't think you have the width.
no,
Yeah, they
there's
wouldn't
not the
fit
width
that
to do
way.
it. The other lot's much bigger, so I think the solution there is if you were to eliminate that breezeway, then it would be more historic. It's very public, very visible on that end.
Are you talking about just on the bungalows or all 3?
No, I'm kind of more leaning on just on the bungalows.
Yeah.
That's just my thought. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts on that. So, I'm of the feeling that 2-to-1 ratio just needs to be on the facade,
What street facade?
street facade.
For
Yeah.
all 3? Or
The vernacular, just the street, it's insulated. But I think the bungalows, you're gonna have to do something on the street side to mitigate.
On both street sides.
Right. So if
Yeah.
we can narrow windows to get that ratio as well as make them taller. Right?
Yeah,
Fair to
'cause
say.
true-
with reason. I mean, I'm not talking a 1 by
Yeah,
1 by
and-
3, but
I get the paint scheme gig. I was trying to be more clear that we can't decide colors. There is a palette that's appropriate, and I don't know if that's a staff approval.
yeah, I would look to see that the 3-part color scheme fit within either the vernacular or bungalow
Yes.
paint palette.
Yeah.
And I would that as long as it met that, I would check off the box.
And I would encourage the owner to look at a wider array of colors.
Mm.
And I'm not saying, red, green, and blue, but a little bit more variation, I think, when it's all said and done.
So they don't all
They'd
look
be
the same.
The thing is, these are supposed to be historic homes. If you get some rich colors in there,
Yeah.
they're gonna be attractive. They're
yeah,
gonna.
I agree. I mean, I think it's something we should
Saleability
take very
will be
seriously and
higher.
get it right for sure.
Yeah. And that's a pretty good way to delineate as well when you've got 3 things going on. You want to make it look like these were here for a while, and recognizably they're not. But
Am I correct that I would say vernaculars are typically a little bit more muted, and then the bungalows might have a little bit more bold colors? Is that generally correct?
The vernacular, you can go. They can kind of be interswept a little bit. You generally have more of the grays and dark browns for the vernacular, But I would say with the bungalow, you probably want to have one that is a good dark kind of a rusty red will go along. Not rusty, but like
or
that.
The barn red with
Yeah.
the brown. That
Well, not
sort of
the-
thing.
There's actually a historic Craftsman color. It's called bottle green, and I actually put that on a house that I owned in West Lynn, and it popped, and it was risky at first, but people
I
loved
think I
it.
know what you're talking about.
It's and we used a kind of a light tan trim, and but there's Craftsman colors that Craftsman's it has a richer palette than the vernacular, I think.
And most of your paint stores will have these.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
schemes.
fact, Benjamin Moore has schemes for each period.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. So
Yeah, I think everybody wants that to work out well.
people drive by that a lot, and I think when people drive by and they see these new homes, they're going to say, "Man, those look pretty killer."
Yeah.
Instead of, "Wow, all three of them have a gray and green look."
Sure.
So
Or
that's probably what you,
Brown.
or tan, or so.
On the vernacular house too, if to mitigate some of the massing concern, I think it's pretty feasible to push the addition back further.
What do you got? 10 feet back now?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? How much?
Well, I think we can just take that whole section. Well, the tub will have to create a bay for the tub, basically, to
like
do
a
it.
cantilevered bay or something
No,
like that.
it would have to go. We'd have that shed would just everything would extend
back a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I don't think we have floor plans. I mean, I
So we
guess,
would just
okay,
take
back.
that whole entity
Oh,
and
here we go.
shift it. As a matter of fact, I could probably blend the tub in with the porch.
If you bring that back,
And
you
then
may not
put
have
the-
that shed. You could just have it straight across. Is that what you're thinking, or it would still stick out?
Well, I think what I'd probably try to do is take that porch hip and extend it. I would bring it
Oh,
out
yeah.
far enough to where they just blended together.
Right over to that bump out. Yeah.
Right. And then the whole addition could come back that distance.
Which is, let's see.
that might
that's-
help with the massing concern.
That would actually go
Essentially
back.
making the master bedroom larger.
No, really, the front. The
You're
whole
just going to
thing
shift
shifts,
it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
instead of a T, it's more like an L.
So the tub.
This thing right here.
Sorry, you're right in the middle of the point.
This would shift.
You can use
This
the
would
mouse because it becomes a
over.
pointer on the screen if you want.
This
Then it-
roof
and
here
then
would blend
what
with
about
this
moving
roof.
The windows, would that preclude moving?
No, it would all work.
Yeah, I think it would work. I was going to go to the floor plan. real
Oh yeah, go
quick.
there.
Sorry.
You were there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd it
there's
go?
no-
There.
okay,
You have to.
gotcha.
You can get to the Adobe
Yeah.
document.
No, that's
So
okay. You
here,
can see it on here.
Oh,
He
okay.
shifts.
So basically,
this
that
back.
tub would go back and
This would
enclose
go
the
back.
porch in a sense.
Yeah,
So
so
the
you're just
tub would
taking
push
that back
back
to
to
the
here?
back corner of the porch,
Okay.
where
Yeah,
that
I
tree
see
thing
that.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Make
be
the
okay.
bathroom bigger.
That would actually look kind
It
of
would
cool.
shrink the great room in a sense, only in the sense of the hallway going would the entrance to the hallway would be pushing back, but that great room is fairly deep, so
Yeah,
I don't see that as being a huge.
that would work. Then you get it back. The neighbors would think that it's back far enough and
It would be
subjugate
almost
it.
even with that.
Mhm.
What is the garage of the adjacent home?
Yeah. So that would satisfy that as far as pushing it back.
Right. I think it'd make a big difference in the massing. So.
Okay. That's a thought, yeah.
Do you know how much feet? If we were going to write a condition,
It looks like
I would say
6.
5 or 6
5
feet.
or 6 feet. Yeah.
Whatever the roof to line up with the porch roof, whatever that distance is. Why am I blue on yours? Oh, you're on the other one.
Yeah. Your monitor's messed up. That's why.
I messed up, man. Yeah, it is.
Start
Look
over.
at that.
Can you start
You
over?
haven't noticed that?
It's
before?
dependent on
I'm sorry, what?
You haven't noticed that? I've been looking at it.
I thought it was
I've
just,
just
the
been going
angle.
along with it. man.
You could just put a minimum number on there.
Minimum of 5.
5.
Yeah, so on the. Okay. Oh, boy. Alrighty. Anything else? We got to go through each of these.
yeah. So the board, my recommendation, where I'm not, maybe this is what I'm seeing as potential additions, and I'm looking for. I'm seeing removing item condition of approval number 3 because that talks about.
Can we put those conditions up? Or I
Yeah.
guess I can get to them myself.
Yeah.
Staff report.
Get
You want to go to
staff.
page 22 of the staff report.
Okay.
Which talks about staff recommending the simplified street elevation. I would
What page?
remove number 3 and replace it with that the applicant shall remove the breezeways from bungalow A and B. Unless
page?
I'm hearing a direction to also
I'm
add
sorry.
vernacular
Do you
A.
mind just waiting, Christine, until we
Sure.
actually get there?
What was page
Page
20?
what?
22 of 23.
22.
Okay. Now
Okay.
I'm following you.
So my recommendation is to remove number 3 and replace it with the applicant shall remove the breezeways from bungalow A and B. And my question is, am I also hearing a direction for vernacular A or just bungalow A and B?
For the
remove-
breezeways?
Yeah.
Just A and B.
A
Just
and B.
Okay. So that number 2 will be seen as removal of breezeways from bungalow A and B, and that will replace the previous number 3, which will be removed. Which talks about
Wait,
the
I'm not on the right page.
street the simplified
either.
street elevation.
Here we go.
Page,
22 of 23.
I think I was
that's
on.
page 21.
Yep. But those have conditions, so we're on the.
So now are we on 23 or 23?
Oh, then it. Oh, I skipped way down. Here we go. Okay.
So you'll see number 3 talks about the simplified street elevation. That would be removed and replaced the breezeway condition. Removing breezeways from bungalow A and B would be replaced. The next question, when I see, is the direction for the only 2-to-1 ratio, 1/1 sash windows on all street-facing elevations.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that a
And that is number
That's ground
Five.
floor.
ground floor
Ground
street
floor.
elevations.
Yeah.
Supposed to talk now.
Jackson 9th and Van Buren?
Is that and well, I want to make sure we're not missing. There's because we also have the kitchen window, which may not work, and that I think that's a
Excluding
I think
kitchen and
excluding the
stair
kitchen windows.
Kitchen
and then
window.
Kitchen and stair.
and then also the casement square windows. So really, it's just taking. The question is, I think that I need to get direction from the board is. Are you allowing the existing kitchen window dimensions and the existing casement window dimensions, and do you want to require additional windows on those street-facing elevations, especially bungalow A and B?
Are we on 5I?
Well, I think your answer will then shuffle down through. So let's take a look. We have bungalow A here.
No,
I don't feel
I
that.
don't think that.
Okay.
I don't think the vernacular needs any more windows. It has several.
Okay.
That's right.
So here's the question. We're looking at the
bungalows.
street-facing elevation
Yeah.
on bungalow A and B. So let's
Yeah,
take a
flip
look at
behind you.
those.
Um,
So that
I
the
have to
lowest
say-
one is the bungalow
here's the
A.
street side, 9th.
Didn't they want a garage window in that garage?
Well, here's the question. So, street facing elevations of both the main house and let's take a look at the garage. And these are now detached garages.
I guess here's a thought, and you guys can completely shut me down, but 9th Street is busy, and I'm also thinking, if these houses are here, they'd probably want to keep their privacy. I'm thinking from a privacy standpoint, but at the same time, there's trees. It's on a busy street. I know it's a side elevation to both.
Well, what is over there that has no window on the house? Is there something that needs to be?
This is the street side. Right?
I know, but what-
kitchen
on-
cabinets are right on the right
on
where
the
he's
inside.
pointing. Yeah, that's
So you
kitchen.
can't put windows
Right.
where there's kitchen
What's
cabinets.
this? Dining?
That's the dining space. So those
So-
could be taller,
These can come down.
right?
These make sense. They're on either side of the fireplace. You got cabinets, but
Usually they'd be just a little bit bigger.
these
Drop the
could
top
be
stuff.
these could be bigger.
Those could be a little bit bigger.
Okay, sure.
These could
Sure.
be like 202
30
inches,
by
1
30.
foot 8 square. And then what about over here?
Just do like
yes,
another-
definitely a window in the garage.
But should it be more horizontal than vertical?
Yeah.
Probably square.
I wouldn't do square. I would probably do like a 6 foot by 2 foot.
6020 because the house on Jackson I believe the blue house has a side window that's
Yeah.
divided light that's horizontal.
Yeah.
So you could put right here up high, like a 6020 or a 55018 might be in proportion,
Yeah.
so that you break this facade up, put it up high for privacy.
Yeah.
Well,
Break
could you,
these-
sorry,
Go ahead.
could you also, if you wanted to default to a 1/1 window, could he?
What? If he wanted to?
If
Over
you,
here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so.
if you
But
wanted to, I don't think that would look
I don't
very
think
good.
you'd
Doesn't
want
look
to
good at
If he
all.
wants to.
You know,
That's,
here's
you know,
his
that's
attached
right
garage.
for
Historically, it
vandalism.
would be here, and there's a perfect example on Van Buren
Yeah.
or Jackson.
Yeah. Seems like that'd be more appropriate to keep
Absolutely,
it up a
up
little
higher, private,
Yeah.
so people don't look in. As far you got window, but you know safety. These guys come down. These guys could be. They look like
Larger?
I, they need to
Little
be
larger.
larger. I'd say at least a 2x2.
Are they
Even
I
if
think
Occasionally
they are
they're
2x2. I
2x3.
think two 6x26 is a nice.
Do they open?
They're fixed.
they're fixed.
Yeah.
They're on-
And that's fine.
They got cabinets and fireplace here, and that's
Right.
historic. But they need to be a titch bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's the dimension?
Maximum. I wouldn't go bigger than 2.6 is pretty big. I would even still here horizontal. You know, a 1'8" by maybe a 2'6", something like that.
Oh, okay.
But no bigger than 2x3, right? A 3020. Or you don't like the rectangular, you like square better?
I think square is more appropriate.
Then you wouldn't go bigger than what?
You know, I would think that oftentimes you would see them a certain width and then go to the top of casework.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And often they are horizontal, a little bit more. But you're thinking square.
I think it's square.
So 2x2?
I think they are 2x2. So.
Yeah, I
Then
think
maybe
they are.
bigger than that? So
that's,
two-
that's why I was thinking 2'6" wide.
2.6 square,
Yeah.
or even 2.620. A little longer, a little narrower.
Let's say 2'6" wide
Yeah.
by a maximum of 2'6" high.
Okay. 2.6 square. Okay.
So you got 6 inches more.
Can you go to the bungalow B?
Yeah.
Okay, so this,
This needs a window in
The middle one.
Where's the
the
street?
middle one is the street.
Oh, okay.
So
It's
probably
got a
same
door.
thing.
Same exact thing. Huh?
Same
Yeah.
window here, same thing here. Bring these down, leave that. So these are maximum 2.6 square, 6030s. Probably like a 5020 here, or a 6020. Actually, a 6016 would look good too. That way, you got the taller windows and then the shorter ones up top. So the same thing.
Yeah.
Same window scheme for bungalow A and B that face 9th Street.
This is not a condition, but as a matter of
3 by
findings,
6.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, I think 121 Jackson Street has a similar roof line where you're coming down towards the front and then it sheds out. So this break here does happen in other locations. I think the neighborhood had said that that is not consistent, but I believe it is.
I believe it is too. I've seen it.
I've seen it both where it stops here and I've seen it come in.
Definitely. I just want to point out that this is not,
It's not atypical.
it's not atypical.
So the question is, do you want to allow it as
Ye-
is, or do you
yes.
want to
I
allow an
wanna allow it.
opportunity to
I
do
think-
a shed if they want at a later date?
I think they need to have the option of either a shed or what's here, but split. But it doesn't have to go to the ridge. It's not. It could go to the ridge.
But to allow enough room,
But
it doesn't
but
have
there's,
to.
it's not out of the question of where it's at now.
In proportionality, you're fine.
That I don't know.
Should
If
it be
it was
wider?
a shed, it should definitely be wider. I would
Yes.
suggest.
Well, maybe
Oh, yeah.
maybe a gable. Maybe the answer is if we make it a little wider as a gable, also that'll get the ridge up closer to the other ridge without the sidewalls getting so tall.
Yeah, that's right. You can widen that out, and the roof's just going to grow up higher.
Right. Keep the same pitch and just.
But you'd have to add some more window because
Okay.
the two don't work. I would, if you did that,
You do 3 windows in
You-
the center.
do 3 windows, but maybe not as tall,
Okay.
and not bring them right down to the bottom. Right. But that's also
I think
historic
that's
too.
what's wrong with it. The windows are coming right down to
The
the
windows
bottom.
are
of the-
scooched down, and I think if you just kept the window height part, but just shrunk them so they're not so tall, and add another window, you'd be fine.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, because I got to write actual conditions here.
Did you get all this already?
No, I'm following you. It's this last one. The what I'm hearing is the applicant needs to revise the proposed gabled dormer, and I want to hear at a minimum X feet wider, and I want to hear an additional window with a minimum and maximum dimensions.
Do you fellas know what the width of that
I'm
is?
looking for it right now.
The room
It is right now. It is 13. No, it's 12 feet wide currently.
So 12 feet. So if you go
I'd say minimum of 4 feet wide, or
another 4
preferably
feet,
6.
so if you go 16 feet and you go 4 feet on each side, would it look silly to have 2 windows and 2 windows?
Yeah, you want to have them all together.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
you'd
We
want to stay in
also
the center.
want to watch that. We don't want that ridge to get taller than the other one.
No. So you've got to design. I think what you have to do is conditions that this dormer be designed such that the dormer ridge intersects the main ridge of the house,
That works.
and that will determine the width of the dormer.
Right.
And at a minimum, the dormer needs to have 3 windows.
All framed around the bottom. The frame has to go around the bottom of the window as well.
Get them up off that roof a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then alternatively, if the applicant wanted to do a shed dormer,
It's allowable,
Uh,
same width.
same width is 6. So I'm hearing a 16-foot
But then does it get
wide
more
shed
windows?
dormer.
If
with
it
a
was a
minimum
shed,
of
it would
3
be 4 windows.
with a minimum of 4 windows.
Yeah, then you'd have to ice and storm, and I know you don't want to do that. It's just because it's more money. Or you'd have to put some sort of rubber membrane.
Okay. So I think it's fine. It's good to allow options. So I'm seeing
Yeah.
a shed dormer, a minimum 16-foot shed dormer with 4 windows.
Yes.
Okay, or revise the existing dormer to be 16 feet wide, but more
Or-
specifically, design the shed so that the dormer ridge intersects with the main ridge
ridge.
of the house and provide 3 windows.
I want to change the condition for the shed roof, though.
Okay.
You said 16 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
No more than 12 feet proud of the bedroom walls
What's proud?
in front of.
Yeah.
But I think pulling it back that extra 18 inches
12 inches.
it would come back 18 inches.
Okay, right. So it's 12 feet wide, but it's set back 12 inches
coming in here
from
like
the
So this
the
would
main
be
wall.
16, and this would come back 18 inches.
You had that front wall is lined up with the wall on the main floor, which is kind of nice.
You put the other condition about removing the breezeways on these 2
Yeah,
properties.
that's done.
Okay.
These are the hard ones.
Okay. Now it's the cakewalk.
Okay.
So we did the windows, we did the breezeways.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, so 5, 6, and 7, these are the A, B, and C. I'm
Sure.
seeing the removal of, the absolute removal of 7I, which is the allowing the verifying the garage door centered, so you're going to allow it off-centered, so I'm just removing 7L.
How do you feel about those garage doors?
And then what I'm seeing for the,
I think so.
basically revising the K and L. Wait, J, K, and L. No, wait, so J, K, and L of
Yep.
the bungalow A are revised, and I'll talk about what the revision is. Bungalow B is
Where's my
K, L, and M. And then what I'm hearing from the vernacular is you do not have any additional recommendations other than the 3060 on the ground floor front elevation.
elevation front facade only?
Okay,
Did you get also about moving the
right.
T?
So then
okay.
the other one,
Okay.
front elevation.
So
And then what I'm
packaged.
seeing is basically the swapping condition approval number L, which was the garage door. But we're going to see that
That can be eliminated.
yeah, right, but it's going to be replaced with, redesigned to allow the T addition
Oh,
to be set back 5 further feet.
to the rear.
On the vernacular.
Yeah, to the rear.
Yeah.
Minimum of 5, so that in case anybody
Yes,
does
Yes.
minimum of 5.
Yeah.
And that's replacing number L. So what I'm seeing for J, K, and L on bungalow A and B is that you are providing and the detached garages, either having a 5020 or a 6016 horizontal window. And is that being divided light? So there's how many panes? Are we
3
looking?
lights.
3 lights. Okay. 3 lights. And then I'm seeing increase the 2020 fixed windows to be 2060 at a maximum height, but allowing a
I
horizontal.
think you said 2626.
I mean 2626.
Yeah.
2626. And then the third is a 3060 window on the the side elevation of bungalow B. And then,
You're talking
Those two.
These two are
yeah.
3060s
Yeah, 3060s on the 1/1s on the side,
on the main
street side elevations.
Yeah.
And the
Street
garage.
side, main
And the
level.
garage.
Street side main level.
Street side. So, main and side.
And you got the garage window?
Yeah, she said that.
Okay.
I do have that. So let's make sure that we're. Okay, so those are the revised conditions. As I see, so you do not have to all state those when you do your motion, but that is what I will be revising when the conditions of approval go out.
Okay.
And so you can say, when your motion, you can say as just previously.
Okay.
Can we, since we're talking about windows, Bo's got a question on the vernacular and the 2-to-1 ratio, how, if we're meaning
Can
to
we
pertain
change-
that to the.
On the ground floor elevation, here,
Yeah,
would you go?
on the street facade, could that be in the conditions, be it the 2-to-1 ratio as opposed to 3x6?
I didn't want to see it go past the rear.
I'd like to change those maybe to 2 6x50s.
What do you think, John?
What?
Wants to change those
So,
ratios to 2.
6 by 5.
6.5.
Right.
Okay, to a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Did everyone hear that?
No.
Instead of specifically saying 3060, what does the board think about?
All those windows? Change all those
No,
windows?
no,
Just
the
on
front-
the, on the street facade on the main level.
These-
Being- we say
these
2650?
2650.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
2650 will not meet egress if those are bedrooms.
And
Those
they're
are not bedrooms.
Yeah.
They're
None
not
of it's
bedrooms?
bedrooms.
None of them
Those
are
are not
bedrooms?
bedrooms.
Okay, then that's fine.
Okay, so just stay with a 2-to-1 ratio on the ground floor as a default condition?
Right.
Okay.
Are those top windows above that porch, are those framed all around, or are they sitting on
You mean
Like-
trimmed?
the trim? Yes.
Oh, yeah, they are. It's you know.
You just can't
I
see
think,
it?
Yeah, it's getting a little bit blurry there, but
Okay.
yeah, the trim does run underneath the
Okay.
windows there. And those are.
And specifically about the sill dimensions, this is the time to provide
the sill
direction?
needs to be. There's an actual name for it.
A
It's a
lip?
drip cell.
It's a drip sill that is.
Has like a flange on it.
So I'm looking, this is modifying the condition that says the window trim shall be redesigned to be equal size on top and side, narrow on the bottom for all
So usually 2 by 3,
one
isn't
over
it?
one windows, and then you
Yeah.
can modify
Chamfered.
the drip
top.
sill.
Do we need to enter that?
Put that in your notes.
You can get this at Par Lakeside. It's prime cedar.
That's on the bungalows, correct? Or
Actually, it's on both.
oh,
All three.
You'll find it
So-
on both styles.
So if we call it a drip sill, but what are the general dimensions?
2 by 3.
2 by
2 by
3
3
drip
roughly.
sill?
3 by
Okay.
3 drip sill.
Okay.
No SPF, fellas.
Okay,
you
so
go.
all
You'll hate
the
yourself when you do
conditions
this,
that identify the
Builder
window
cheap.
trim at the addition of a 2x3 drip sill to that
Yep,
condition.
yep.
Okay, I
Let's-
think we have everything.
Well, I better close the meeting then, shouldn't I? I haven't done that.
Yes, and I think a lot's been talked about, so
Should we?
it's always good to allow the
One more
the
thing.
neighbor if they want to make extra, because we're a
I
little
haven't
unique
closed-
in McLaughlin is we do a little bit of our deliberations in a little more
I have one-
collaborative way. It's
well, I
always
have-
good to bring, at least
Oh.
allow them to comment.
Yeah, but I've got one more thing
Okay.
that I need to bring up on bungalow. Bungalow A. You guys are not gonna like me. That was it.
Oh, go back
Go back.
to the floor plan.
No elevation.
Oh,
Okay, they both have it.
Yeah, they do.
Right here, and go to bungalow B. You guys are gonna shoot me. And this one right here.
Yeah.
You don't really need to do that. I think it needs to be, that's a bump out. You're sticking the fireplace in that
Right.
with the vent out the back. And then you've got cabinetry on both sides, I assume. So why not bring that fireplace in, build a frame, so your cabinets butt into it, your mantle's there, and then it just goes up. You're only talking less than 2 feet.
I would either want to see it go inside the house or continue up past the roof.
Oh, yeah, so the vent is either gonna, I would just have the vent go
chimney?
up, but that's on the front. You'd see that vent.
This,
Yeah, it would just be a 4-inch B vent.
yeah, but the
look
roof.
ugly.
I would like to see that form come up.
Yeah. So here's the thing, it saves you. If you're pouring a footing and a foundation for that, get rid of it, just straight shot, that saves some money, right? Saves some money on a roof, saves everything, but just framing that inside, you're not losing a lot in the living room. But then your cabinets butt into it, you know what I mean? And then you can have a hearth and a mantle, but then, because that's not very, when I see that, that's Track City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like so much of what you guys are doing.
Everything.
This
It just caught my eye,
hits
like,
me.
yeah, it detracts from it.
it just tells me,
So you could condition two options. Basically, either show a chimney,
A true chimney.
true
going
chimney,
up.
or put it inside. There would be a vent in the roof, right? I mean,
a B vent.
Yeah, if you have the fireplace inside, you could do a sidewall vent. I would be fine with that.
So for.
Oh, you're fine with having a sidewall vent out.
Yes, but
Just
this,
90 out.
but this
okay.
condition with the sidewall vent is
Okay, so for
Obvious.
bungalow A
Push
and
it
B,
Come this way, it's cheaper. 90 out.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. With
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, out the back. Like,
No, right where it's at.
At the
Just
wall.
eliminate all this. You could just have that vent. come
Oh,
out.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that saves a lot of money. But this, getting rid of that, says
Yeah,
it's
just-
a little bit more historic instead of a tract house.
I just want.
Okay.
I just wanted to look at the width of the room was all.
You-
So it could be.
That
You
has
could
to
have
be-
the option.
Well,
to
think
do
about
either.
it. You're putting
could do that.
cabinets there that
Yeah.
are 12 to 14 inches or so.
Right.
You go in another 10 inches, that's not going to kill the room. And anything, it'll add to the
Ambiance.
ambiance,
Right.
marketability.
No, I have the same concern he does about the inside. Making that living room too narrow would kind of kill the floor plan. But it's
Not
So
10
we had
inches.
the option to do.
See, it's
either.
already coming in a little bit.
Or-
And a
Yeah.
gas vent, you're talking a box that's 2 feet from outside. I don't think you're going to lose it.
it'll look much better if you make it a full chimney. But
And were you going to
I'm
put
fine with
cabinets
either
on
way.
either side or no?
It would definitely be something that I would look at doing. I've been focusing on the exterior.
And I don't know
That's fine.
if that's
that's
what
not part of our purview to tell you.
It's
how
not
to
ours.
do
Yeah, I was
Right.
just saying from the outside, it doesn't look.
I mean,
good.
it's definitely something I've done in the past with other houses that haven't even had the historic
Historically, you just wouldn't have that
significance.
bump out, and it just
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
going to look
so
too
that-
tracty. So that's a condition I'd have on.
okay, so bungalow A and B, remove the exterior chimney bump out or construct a true chimney.
Yes,
No.
which of course they're not going to do. But
If it was my choice, we'd do it. But
oh, sure, everybody.
it's not my
That's-
choice.
That's big bucks. Okay. So That's it. Are you
That's-
saying
and
we
that's
need?
condition number 8, a brand new condition, which is
That's
for
right.
bungalows
Brand new
A and
condition.
B. No, there is no bump out for the vernacular.
No.
No.
Well,
It's inside.
yeah,
It's in the middle of the
Yeah.
house.
yeah. So,
So bungalow A and B, remove the exterior chimney bump out or create a true chimney.
correct. So at
you
this
have
time,
When you say true chimney, what is that? It could still be siding, correct? Or
Yeah, it could be
Okay.
siding. We're not asking you to make it out of stone, but I do want to see it continue it up
Right.
a few feet past
if you
the
do it,
roof line.
it's cheaper to go that way.
If you do that.
So you're saying before I close this, I should have the neighborhood
Yeah,
back?
because we are a little unique in the sense that we do a
Okay.
little bit of collaborative
Okay.
conditions. It's always good to allow the neighborhood or people who have been involved to comment at the end.
Okay. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
This is an efficient bathroom.
It's kind of, I don't know what it's serving. You know, it's a full-size bathroom.
Once again, I'm still Damon Maybe, and I'm still with MNA. 99% of what you've talked about, yay. Still think there shouldn't be a breezeway on the vernacular. And still think, I didn't mention it, but it was in our original written comments, that the garage doors on the vernacular should be centered. If you look at both bungalow A and B, they have the driveway going in to center up on the, and the doors are slightly hidden behind each one of them. You can't see it. I don't know why. It just doesn't even show the garage. Oh, there it is.
Can we get the picture of... Can we
So
get the
see,
picture
on
of...
bungalow B, you can see the garage doors are nested behind the house.
Uh-huh.
And if they're centered up, I mean, it looks awkward, and most of the garages are centered up. I'm not saying everyone, because
Yeah, I've seen them like that, and it's so that
need the picture.
cars can get in there without hitting the house.
Right, and I think
but if
And
you
there's
if it's
just not enough
detached, you can move that
property
garage farther
to move
back.
that.
if you look at bungalow
over
B, they adjust for the for
But
them
they
to move
can't
in.
do it with that lot. That lot's not the same.
Go back to the site plan for vernacular A. There you go. There you go.
I don't see why they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
They've got plenty of room to shift that garage over.
They've
They
only
got-
got 3 feet, and that's their buff. That's their.
No, he's saying
Put
the
back.
opening of the door shift over to be
Yeah.
centered.
And
Or
which
does
would
the
be
garage
very easy
go
to do
farther
without a
the house is right there.
Are you
But if
looking for
there's
that
no-
to be a... Are you guys looking at that for a shear wall on that garage?
Right. That's the the whole
So structurally, on the one side, they've got like 4 feet, and that's what's called a shear wall.
Right.
And because on the other side, it's a foot.
But they can portal frame that.
If they move it over a little bit, then they have to do a portal frame with some hold downs and then a beam that goes across. And, But
Like
we're
it
only
was-
talking a foot and a half on the other side?
We can. The new code allows 16 or 18-inch portal frame. So, if I remember right, the reason was because there was a little bit more room on that lot, and that's
Oh, so you made the garage wider?
I believe
The
so.
garage is bigger than the other ones, for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah. So it just has more room on the
Your driveway is actually 3.5 feet wide or 2 from the property line to, because the other one's 12. From wall to wall,
Right.
property.
property line, yeah.
So you could, in theory, you could make that equidistant because you've got a pretty wide driveway. But then you got to portal frame it.
Yeah, which that's
I know it's,
no. I mean, that's we can live with that.
that's not a big deal, but if that's what you think we should do, then structurally, width-wise, there's no reason why they can't.
Right.
Right, and I understand. I mean, I've got, I have a 1923 house, and actually my garage is built over the edge of the canyon. It's all on stilts, but I do understand, trying to just even put up shelves so you have a working space. If you do that and it's centered and you open it up, you get to decide who gets out of the car because. But it just. I guess that what I would say is. It just looks awkward with the house being where it is and being visible
See it up there on the top.
And it actually looks like one door is shorter than the other door. So,
There's one on Jackson.
I know.
Okay. Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's our two concerns. And then as far as I know, you've kind of already ruled on it, but the master bedroom windows. I guess I'd say my master bedroom, I hit my head on one windowsill and I kick the other windowsill. That's what happens in these old houses. But that's about it. Mainly, it's we're still concerned that there's a breezeway and the garage door being off-centered. But
Okay.
the other,
How
the
about
moving
a
it back.
compromise? We
all
get them
that.
to equal size the garage, but we leave the breezeway. The thing was though is just that that house is so wide that you would really have to stretch your neck and get to the back to even see the breezeway. But whereas on the other houses it's clearly visible and it should go away. So I don't know. Am I not thinking?
No, you're right. That is
Okay.
Thank
So
you
rock,
very
paper,
much.
scissors. Thank you.
All right.
But yeah, I appreciate all the other comments, both from the builder
Sure.
and everything. I
I think we came
Thank you.
to a pretty good conclusion. All right.
So
then
So
the
can
question
we-
is there additional direction on the condition for the garage door?
I think so.
yes, on the vernacular house, the garage door to be equidistant on the front facade.
Okay, so bring back the condition that was removed.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that condition 3?
I
Aye,
or
that
L.
is centered.
Undo the edit.
JKL. It's
Okay,
L. Verify
that's
the
fine.
garage door is centered on the detached garage. Correct?
Okay, yeah. So then we'll add a new one, O, which was
Oh, no.
the T-shaped addition. Will be moved 5 feet back.
Okay.
Yeah. Minimum
All right.
of 5 feet back.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to officially close this meeting. It's closed. So, do you guys have any other comments, issues, concerns you want to talk about, or are you groovy with all that? Oh, I will make a comment. I'm going to open this meeting back up again. If y'all are going to play in the McLaughlin neighborhood, from a personal perspective and from the neighborhood perspective, it's LOU. It's not LA, and I've dealt with that my whole life, other than that, and JON. So it is McLaughlin neighborhood. So
Is that spelled wrong
it
somewhere?
was spelled wrong all throughout their application.
I thought I fixed it.
You didn't
So-
fix it.
Anyway, closing back up. If there's anything else,
I think we're ready for
okay. If somebody wants to make a motion on what we
I
discussed.
move we approve PC 13059 with conditions, new and
Yeah,
old.
HR 303.
Okay.
HR 1303?
Yeah, HR 1303 as revised.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. If we can put this to the vote.
Okay. Derek Woodson,
Aye.
Cindy Toll,
Aye.
Tara McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. I think we came to a fantastic compromise.
Thanks for not giving up on
Yeah.
Oregon
Yes.
State.
Yeah. You just got, if you jump in, like I said, you got to play the game, man. All right. Go forth and build.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to take a 2-minute break because I drank too much water at dinner.
And I can do a super quick update.
Oh, really? Like, should I just
Just
keep
now,
going?
it just happened?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I can do a very quick update.
Okay. If you can do it in a few minutes because.
Yeah.
then
I
need to
don't
go
have
home.
that much. The updates I want to let you know. Ermitinger House
Shut
is
up, man.
Ermitinger House is moving forward, looking for getting the final grants. Still moving for a spring 2014, summer 2014 construction.
Yay.
No additional comments. We're reviewing the draft National Register nominations for the 3 structures: the elevator, the promenade, the Carnegie, and the Masonic. Moving forward, SHIP is reviewing it. Most likely will be going and reviewed in October. Willamette Falls Legacy Project, we are about to kick off the year-long visioning and master planning of the Blue Heron site. July 10th is our slated kind of big project launch. Website will go live. All the press releases go out. But the First City Festival, July 27th of this, we are going to have a very, very big presence all day long, and we're also going to have a project ribbon cutting with elected officials from all the partners. We'll be there that night at 7 before the headlining band. And the First City Festival is the Main Street Group's main Community Summer Festival.
Where's that at?
On Main Street.
On Main Street. Okay.
They'll be blocking it off for us.
Either in the July meeting or the August meeting, we'll be doing our own visioning and master planning community conversations for this. There are going to be about 40 Speaker Bureau community conversation that partner staff, myself, Tony Conkle, Metro staff, Clackamas County staff will do. And we'll have you scheduled in the July or August one. So it's about probably an hour long. We'll be doing the site tours this Friday from 2 to 4. And then it sounds like both John and Cindy will not be able to make it, so I will reschedule.
Wait, so we're not doing tours?
We are,
Friday?
yeah.
You are, but we
You are.
can't
The
make
doctors.
it, so
Yeah.
we'll go at another time.
Yeah. So I'll work with them on rescheduling, but I really think I want to get all of you out on site before we do the visioning process.
Is Vicki going to be there for it?
Yes, Vicki will be there for it. And so that's probably my big updates. Everything else on our list with the photo contest ended. We'll get it to you. Been busy this week.
By the end of this week? By the end of this week?
I think she said I'm busy this week.
Yeah.
We have them. We'll get it to you. Our goal is to get it reviewed.
No worries.
And last year we sent out notices in the water bill, and we got a really good response. This year we didn't get as good a response, even though it was really easy to upload. So, people really love the contest, so we'll keep on going.
That's
but I think
awesome.
we need to think about better ways of
Yeah, I think
advertising.
the
Since
water
we
bill
don't-
since
It's all about taking photos.
pay their bills online. They just find the bill and throw everything away.
But we sent out 10,000. We got a pretty good, it was amazing what the response we got, because we hooked up to other planning notices that were going out that month last year. And so we kind of piggybacked on them. So we didn't do that this year, and I think that may have hurt us. But we haven't. But I think it went well, and it's a good learning process. But I like it as it's pretty easy staff-wise to do, and I like it as a good May Preservation Month. So we'll just work on better outreach process for next year. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yay.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So
Thanks for making
that
me
was
feel
it?
old. I'll show you.
Is it